Dr. Harshad?
Yes.
Okay. I think the Tamar sir has not yet joined.
Huh.
Could you
Actually,
please or
actually, we can see his this one. He has joined, but
is it okay? In which name?
Mahendra Anatomy.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
okay.
I am
Ah,
here. I am here.
ah.
So, good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Tomar.
I wish
So,
all are doing good during this pandemic time.
yeah. So today we are having Dr. Mahendra Pratap Singh Tomar, and he will be giving a talk on the comparative osteology of the wild carnivores. And let me, before just starting the session, we'll just give the brief biodata. So currently he's working as assistant professor in the veterinary anatomy since December 2013. He has done his BVSc in Jabalpur actually, where he was actually started working in the wildlife field as a volunteer, and he became founder, vice president of the Wildlife Forum in Jabalpur, and then he served as the president of that forum for 1 more year. Conducted various anatomical studies on the bones of tiger, leopard, wildcat, mongoose, wild birds. I think his topic was also, the thesis topic was related to the wildlife anatomy itself. He studied the hair pattern of wild animals and quick method and with the quick method, and reported differentiating features among the common wild animals in India. He reported the comparative podometry in domestic goat and spotted deers for the identification of species. Participated in various training programs. Member of various national and international scientific societies and committees. He has been a guest speaker for the occasion of World Veterinary Day on 24th of April in Ankara University, Turkey, and he has given the invited online lecture on comparative osteology and anatomical tool in the forensic bag, which was arranged by the College of Veterinary Science, Rampura, Phool, Gadwasu, Ludhiana. And he's working as a reviewer for several journals of repute, such as Anatomia, Histologia, Embryologia, Macedonian Veterinary Review, International Journal of the Veterinary Science, and several others. He has published more than 20 research articles in comparative anatomy of wild animals in various journals of national and international reputes. So I welcome Dr. Tomar to deliver today's talk. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh, for giving this such wonderful introduction of mine. Uh, I think this all people they are basically from the anatomy field only, or somebody is there from other field also.
Other field also are there. Some from clinical background are also there.
Okay, so maybe I may give enough emphasis for the differential aspects of osteological features in carnivores. Can I start my presentation now?
Yes, yes, yes. Can share your
Yes.
slides.
I think my slides are visible for everyone.
Yes, yes.
If somebody has noticed number of slides, please don't have any fear because I am not going to present all slides. Okay, the important thing only. So first of all, if we talk about the comparative anatomy, okay, especially in case of carnivores, as we all are aware of that the natural forces, the climatic changes, they are influencing the changes in the morphology of species as well as individual, and those changes they are making us able to survive in the climatic change as well as the whatever ecological changes are there. Then why we are talking about this? I would like to start my presentation from this slide. This is a case, or this is the incidence where one of my student has ordered chicken biryani and this was found in the plate. Now my question is, anybody can identify which bone is this? Anyone, especially the PG students, PhD students, if they are in the group, if they are in the meeting. Okay, if nobody, then I would like to say, first of all, as far as I know, or all people will agree that this bone is not belonging to chicken, isn't it? Then what it may be? The thing is, why we should have the knowledge of comparative anatomy if we are not knowing, we don't know what the person is serving us. By appearance, by the morphological features, if we have idea about, at least we can say, yes, this may be the large metacarpal or metatarsal of ruminant. So that idea of comparative anatomy, if we are having, with the help of that, we can identify, we can characterize, or we can give the differential identification remarks in certain vetero-legal cases. So why we should know about comparative anatomy? First of all, the morphology of an organ system that varies according to the feeding habit, habitat, and nature of their lifestyle. The pre-predator relationship and fight or flight behavior, they are among the most important influences to induce adaptation in musculoskeletal system. And here the comparative osteology's role comes in. The mammalian skeleton is highly variable. If you see, some animals, they are burrowing, whereas some other mammals, they are flying. The moles are the burrowing, rats are burrowing, rabbits are there, but the bats are flying. So this much variation is there in mammalian skeleton. Here the feeding habit, like how the animal is feeding, that is also having tremendous influence on skeletal system. Depending on the prehension, what type of prehension style the animal is following, the morphology of the skull, or we can say the maxilla and mandible will be changed. Apart from this important aspect of the ecology, the bones can be good evidence to tell about the information of sex, age, and species, which can be used for the vetero-legal cases. If we talk about forensics, it is a multidisciplinary science where the laws are made to solve the puzzles of the legal cases. Maybe the problem of the theft, assault, rape, accident, poisoning, surgical or medical negligence, suicide attempt, suicide or murder, animal abuse, cruelty. In general, forensics I am talking about. It is not about veterinary forensics. Any type of legal implications or legal cases can be solved with the help of the forensics. Then what we do in forensics? In forensic medicine, especially if we are an osteologist, the bones can tell the story of the victim's fate even for years. When the soft tissues are getting decomposed earlier, bone can be sustaining those type of changes for the longer time. A forensic anatomist, with the help of the knowledge what they are having about the bones, they can tell about the identity of the sex, whether they are male or female, what may be the age, whether they are belonging to the young one, whether they are the adults or they are in the senile stage, as well as they can tell about the species, what species these bones are belonging to. For veterinary forensic osteology, the vast amount of knowledge is important, which can be used in veterinary medicine. There are many cases of forensic investigations are there where with comparative osteological characterization, the cases are being solved. Then, since we are dealing with the veterinary anatomy, we should know about in what cases we should use this forensic information to solve the vetero-legal cases, especially in the country where the biodiversity is very good, like India. We are having a rule that is called Wildlife Protection Act, which was implemented in 1972, where the animals as well as plants are divided into 6 schedules, and depending on the endangeredness or the threatening to that species, they are classified. Schedule 1, that is having endangered species. Schedule 2, highly protected species. Then 3rd and 4th, which are not endangered, they are at this time they are present in enough population. Then Schedule 5, the species which can be hunted, they are very few. And the Schedule 6, where the plants which cannot be cultivated, like wild trees, especially the timber trees and all, that they are coming in this category. Then we have to remember that our report, what we are going to give in the vetero-legal cases, they may penalize some person who has not committed the crime. So our information should be very authentic and it should be based on evidences. Here the Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 animals are of major concern, where 3 to 7 years imprisonment with minimum 25,000 rupees fine is there if somebody is found guilty. Then in general, if we talk about the carnivores, they all are mammals, especially. They are classified in class Mammalia of the animal kingdom, and they all are grouped together in order Carnivora. Previously, in old literature, these animals were considered as the carnivorans, and they are primarily eating flesh. Natural forces made them flesh eating basically, but some of those animals, they have, because of the ecological competition, they diverted towards the omnivorous nature. In order Carnivora, about 279 species are there, and on the basis of the ear bones and cranial features, they can be classified into 2 suborders. One is dog-like animals, that is Caniformia. Another is Feliformia or cat-like animals. First of all, if you see about the Caniformia, that is having different families. Family Canidae, that is the dog family, where we will have dog, wolf, jackal, wild dog, dingo. These are the photographs of those animals. Then family Mustelidae, where the badgers, otters, weasels, marten, grison, polecat, wolverine, etc. are included. Family Alluridae, where the pandas are there. Family Ursidae, where the giant panda and bear are there. Okay. Family Otaridae, eared seal. Family Posidae, that is having earless seal. Then Procyonidae, where raccoons, olingo, coati comes. Then family Odobensidae, where the walruses are there. Okay. And family Mephitidae, where the skunks are present. Out of these species, these all families, I will focus today's talk on Canidae, Mustelidae, Ursidae in suborder Caniformia. Whereas if we talk about suborder Feliformia, that includes majorly the family Felidae, means the cat family, where cat, tiger, leopard, lion, cheetah, puma, lynx, codcod, ocelot, different type of animals are there. Then Priodontidae, where the lynxes are present. The Hyenidae, only one genus in this family is surviving now, that is Hyena. Okay, then family Herpestidae, in that mongoose, meerkat, cussimans, they are included. Family Viveridae, where the civet cats are there, and family Eupleridae, where the Malassy mongoose and civets are included. In this, I will discuss about the Felidae and Herpestidae. Remaining these Priodontidae or Viveridae, they are very less, or they are of least concern in our country. Then, in general, if we talk about where the vetero-legal aspect of these cases comes, why these people, these animals are getting killed. They are getting killed for different usage, different body parts, and for each body part, a different branch of forensic science is there. First of all, if we talk about the bones, which are used in various traditional medicines, okay, the science which deals with the bone, that is forensic osteology, that will be the talk for the day. For the skin, I think you all are aware of that various skins of wild animals people are keeping to make purse, that bags, then belts and other things, or somebody they are keeping just like a shield or something. So the science which deals with the skin identification, that is called forensic dermatology. And if we are doing it with the hair sample, then we are calling it forensic trichology. When we are dealing with the nails, claws and hooves, the science related to that is forensic necology and forensic podology. Hooves are considered under podology and nails and claws are under necology. Then the animals are killed for the tusk and teeth. Many people just to they are having superstitious things, like they will change their fortune by if they are having that elephant tusk or the tiger teeth or other thing. So that science which deals with these aspects is forensic odontology. Then the organs, many medicines, especially the Chinese medicines, they are making from the organs of the wild animals. So that science which deals with the identification of species on the basis of the organs, that is forensic splanchnology. Other than that, in wild areas, the animals are getting killed for meat, for horns and antlers. Okay. Then, if we are going to investigate a forensic case, what should be the approach? Especially if we talk about the osteological aspect, first of all, we have to check whether it is a bone or any other tissue. If it is a bone, then we have to decide whether it is a human or animal. And in animal, again, we have to go for whether it is large animal, whether it is medium sized animal or a small animal. It is about like how we can make a tree to narrow down our approaches to identify the species. Then the forensic anatomist, to meet this challenge, they are collecting information and they are making a comparative tree to identify what this bone belongs to. For that reason, the anatomist should have idea, or they have to be able to identify whether it is a whole bone or it is a large fragment, or if possible even for the small fragments. Generally, in most of the forensic cases, when we are going at the incident site, we are not getting small bones, or large bones are also chopped, or they are converted to the small fragments. So we should have idea to identify those structures also. The primary method for identification about this is the gross osteological comparison. For that, certain criteria which are dividing these specimen into the various family, then within family, what species they belong to, that idea we should have. And if possible, then we should send these samples to the DNA analysis, which is 100% authentic evidence considered in the courts. But in certain condition where the DNA cannot be isolated, only one tool a forensic scientist is having, that is osteological comparison. Even some report has been published recently by Botarek et al. They told that even the monozygotic twins can be differentiated if you are knowing about the frontal sinus morphology. If you compare, even in the monozygotic twins, which are looking as such, they are similar to each other, you cannot differentiate easily, but the frontal sinus morphology of them also vary because they are different individuals. Here, the same information, I made a chart. What type of bone, then depending on that, you have to decide the species, whether it belongs to large, medium or small animal. Then whether it is human. If it is human, then you have to go for the medical anatomist. If it is animal, then you have to consult the veterinary anatomist. And this veterinary anatomist will construct an anatomical profile. They will check the trauma analysis, and they can go even for the identification of the age, sex, and other demographic parameters. Here are some news what I have collected, which are published in 2022 only. This is just within 2 months of period. In Vietnam, they found some illegal wild trade where forensic lab was the agency who cracked down this incidents, this entire crime. You can see how brutally they are hanging tiger. Actually, I found all the photographs how they are killing this tiger, de-skinning and everything. But because of the ethical concerns or that issue, I did not share that one. Then here you can see in Varda in India itself, the bone of the fetuses were found, and the forensic scientist has solved the case with the help of that. Then in Jaipur, the missing child case was solved with the help of the skull as well as some bones recovered from the residence of the culprit. Other cases are also there, and this is the recent one where the person was having the tooth of the tiger, skin of the tiger, claws of the tiger to change to make money. Like he was having superstitious faith that these things will bring more money to his house, but they were found guilty and now they are penalized with 5 years in imprisonment. Here during my work, when we were going to forest to check whenever any sample was there, you can see here the small piece of the bone. They were also found these skull, humerus, pelvis, scapula, atlas. They all are belonging to the wild animals found in different forests. Okay, and when we collected all bones, you can see how many bones we have found in the forest itself. Here, identity, I have masked not to reveal the confidentiality of the case. Okay, then after this introduction, I think now you all are aware of why we should have enough knowledge or adequate knowledge of the comparative anatomy. Now I will start the real theme of today's lecture, that is the anatomy itself. Here we have to remember that these morphological changes are coming in picture because of the evolutionary principles, and the forensic is one aspect where these evolutionary forces derived morphological changes are being used for the identification in case of vetero-legal cases. Here if you see the cervical vertebrae or the vertebral characterization among avians, amphibians, reptilians and mammals. Other than mammals, the single occipital condyle is present in the occipital bone. In avians, cervical vertebrae are 12 to 14 depending on the species. Okay, so approximately 12 cervical vertebrae are present. In mammals, 7 with few exception. In reptilians, one specific bone is present, that is pro-atlas, especially in the crocodilians. And in amphibians, only single cervical vertebra is present. Other vertebrae, if we talk about, the avians are having mostly fused type of vertebrae, whether it is notaria, whether it is lumbosacral mass, synsacrum or pygostyle. Whereas in amphibians, only one sacral vertebra is present, and reptilians are having 2 vertebrae. Where in case of mammals, the sacral vertebrae are fused to form os sacrum, the fused bone mass. So on this basis, we can say, yes, it is mammal or reptilian or amphibian or aves. Here, why I am talking about all these 4 classes? Because the schedule 1 and schedule 2 animals are belonging to all 4 categories. Then, what we should remember about bone morphology? Bone morphology is not about only the qualitative features, but it may have some quantitative features also. For example, in the tetrapoda, means from the avians to the reptilians and mammals, if we talk about, the lightest bones are present in the avians, whereas the heaviest are present in the reptilian and mammals. Even the cortical bone thickness, the trabecular formation, that is also variable. When we are getting a small bone piece, instead of the full bone, if we are getting only the fragment of the bone, at that time we have to go for the cortical bone thickness, how the trabeculae are arranged. Then the medullary cavity size, that is also variable among these classes. The avians are having very large medullary cavity because they are having the pneumatic bones, whereas it is smaller in mammals and very much reduced in the reptiles. Then what features of different bones we have to check? First of all, I will start from the appendicular skeleton. Here, before going in details, I would like to say I am focusing only on the major bones, not the small bones. This is not anatomical classification like long bone, flat bone, sesamoid bone or something. Major bones means the bones which can be collected from the crime site or incident site. For example, in forelimb, if we talk about the carpals, metacarpals may not be present or may not be traced at the incident site. Either they are very small or they may be taken by the scavenging animals to some other places and that cannot be tracked. So my focus of talk in appendicular skeleton includes scapula, humerus, radius and ulna. Similarly, in hind limbs, I will talk about the os coxae, femur, tibia and fibula. I will not include other things. In certain other times, if possible, I would like to give that talk also in future. But today's talk in appendicular skeleton will be focused only in the major bones. First of all, if we talk about the scapula, since I was told that some people they are not belonging to the anatomy, here just a brief idea I would like to say. It is a flat bone which is having different borders, different angles, the spine which divides the lateral surface into two parts and the termination of this spine that we call the acromion process. In this photograph which is collected from a wild cat, here it is the infraspinous fossa, the supraspinous fossa, the scapular spine which is having a tuberosity in middle, then the acromion process which can be divided into the suprahamate process and the hamate process. Okay, and the different borders, the caudal border, the dorsal border, the anterior border. Okay, in the distal angle, the glenoid angle, we can see the glenoid cavity, we can see the coronoid process, we can see the hamate and the suprahamate process. Then if we are having a specimen which belongs to scapula, what we should note if we are dealing with the forensic case? Here we have to remember that the shape of the scapula, the anatomy, the morphology of the spine, what type of supraspinous, infraspinous fossae are there, scapular spine with its tuberosity, what morphology they have, what is the orientation of them, acromion process, whether it is divided, subdivided, whether it is divided or not, suprahamate process, if acromion is divided, it will have suprahamate and the hamate process, then what is the morphology of suprahamate process? Then whether supraglenoid tubercle is present or absent, if present, what is the morphology? Infraglenoid tubercle is present, what is the morphology? Glenoid angle as well as the coronoid process. Now, if we see on these the features of the scapula, how we can differentiate among the family. If we talk about in general, the canids, the shape of the scapula in canids is fan shaped, whether it becomes quadrangular in the felids. The spine in both the species, both the family, they are diagonally present and they are dividing the lateral surface into 1:1 fossa, 1:1 ratio. The supraspinous fossa is undulating in felids. The tuberosity of the scapular spine is indistinct in case of the canids, whereas it is having, or it is just like a tubercle in wildcat, elongated in tiger, and ridge-like in leopard. So within the same family, on these basis, we can differentiate even the species. Then the suprahamate process in canids, generally that is the triangular structure, which is not that much prominent in case of domestic dog, but in wolves, in red fox, and in coyote, you will get that they are very prominent. In case of phthalates, the suprahamate process is triangular but large in case of tiger and small in leopard. In domestic cat, they are quadrangular, whereas round ends in the wild cat and lynx, and triangular with notch between hamate and suprahamate process in puma. Coracoid process, if we talk about, that is small and rounded in case of canids and pointed in case of ferrets. Other features are not that much differentiating. Here, important thing is that if we talk about the undulation of the supraspinous fossa in case of phthalates, the maximum undulation is present in the leopard, which is more than the lion, and the least was observed in the tiger. However, the infraspinous fossa's undulation is only reported in lion, which is not found in other species of the Felidae. The subscapular fossa, in case of leopard, is having 5 prominent lines for the subscapularis muscle, and the coracoid process is hook-like in tiger, whereas round and tiny in lion. Then, if we talk about the same features of the scapula in case of harpastids, means mongoose family, ursids means bear family, and mustelids means the badgers family. The shape of the scapula is rectangular in harpastid and mustelids, whereas in ursid one additional fossa is present caudal to the infraspinous fossa. The scapular spine is oblique in harpastid and mustelids, whereas it is diagonal with unequal divisions in ursids. The shape of supraspinous fossa, that is prominent or indistinct supraspinous fossa is prominent with the indistinct cranioventral angle in case of harpastids, whereas ursids are having leaf-like appearance and the mustelids have semi-oblanceolate appearance. Tuberosity of the scapular spine in mongoose family, that is prominent, whereas in others they are indistinct. Suprahamate process morphology in mongoose family, it is quadrangular, mustelids it is triangular, whereas in ursid it is not prominent or it is indistinct. Coracoid process of scapula we talk about in mongoose family, that is blunt and short, whereas in ursids it is small and rounded, and mustelids it is thick and curved. The supraglenoid tubercle, that is less developed in ursids than other two families, and the glenoid angle of mustelid is having faint inferior scapular spine, that is the characteristic feature of Mustelidae family. Here you can see the photographs. This is the wild cat, this is the domestic dog, this is fox, this is badger, this is again the pallid European cat, here ursid and harpastid. Here you can see the fan appearance of the scapula that is present in case of the canine family, whereas in badgers and harpastids they are almost rectangular. Rectangularness is increased in case of harpastid. In phalid, it is quadrangular, where the anterior border is rounded and more prominent than the canidae. And in case of bear, if you see here, the additional fossa caudal to the infraspinous fossa is prominent. This feature is present only in the bear family, not in others. Then if you see about the suprahamate process morphology in canidae, they are not prominent. The division is not prominent, just rudimentary structure like appearance is there. In fox, if you see, it is triangular. It is more prominent than the dog. It is similarly in the badgers, and here the badgers and the mongoose, they are having the rectangular scapula, but if you see the suprahamate process, on this basis you can differentiate them. The big or more prominent suprahamate process is present in phthalates as well as herpestids, but morphology varies according to the family. This is the medial surface of the scapula. You can see the appearance in mustelids and herpestids that I already told, it is rectangular. Okay. If you see here the supraglenoid tubercle morphology in canids, it is round, which is becoming prominent in case of the fox. It is again canid, but it is species difference among canids. But in case of phalid, it is very prominent. Coracoid process is very prominent, and the glenoid tubercle is also developed. In Ursidae, again it is round and tuberous. Then next bone is humerus. As we all know, the humerus is a long bone. It is composed of the proximal extremity, the distal extremity, and the shaft. The proximal extremity is having the head of the humerus and two tuberosities, greater and the lesser tuberosity. In distal extremity, the trochlea, the capitulum is the condyles, medial and the lateral condyles. Apart from that, the epicondyles and the front area or the anterior part of this distal extremity is composed of some fossa. In case of carnivores, two fossae are present. The one is coronoid fossa, the medial one, and the radial fossa, the lateral one, which is divided by a ridge. In general, in ruminants, we talk about the coronoid and the radial fossa are same. But nowadays, if you see the latest literature, especially the Nomina Anatomica Veterinaria, they have described them as a different structure. Here, in case of different species, the different type of structures are there. Since these all photographs are belonging to the felines, here you can see one additional foramen is present on the medial aspect of the distal extremity, and this is called supracondylar foramen or supracondyloid foramen. That is just above to the coronoid fossa. Then, if we talk about the humerus, the important points which we have to note, that is the twisting of the shaft, then head and tubercles, their levels, their development, the intertubercular groove, whether it is shallow, whether it is deep, whether it is notch, that type of things. Then the crest of humerus and the lateral tuberosity, whether they are prominent, they are ridge-like or tubercle-like. Then the morphology of the teres major and teres minor tubercles, the prominence of the tricipital line, radial and the coronoid fossae, whether they are separate structure, they are fused together. If they are separate structure, what is the ratio of them, and what is the relation of these two fossae with other structures. Then presence or absence of the supratrochlear foramen, presence or absence of the supracondylar foramen, and the lateral and medial supracondylar crest if the supracondylar foramen is present. Then depending on the structure, the features, how to differentiate them. The canids are having long, generally straight shaft, whereas the phthalates, they are having slender shaft which is flaring towards distally. Then headed tubercles, if we talk about, the greater tubercle in canids is rounded and moderately elevated, whereas in phthalates, moderately sized greater tubercle that arches over the humeral head. The intertubercular groove is shallow in case of phthalates. The deltoid tuberosity is marginally raised in case of canids, whereas it is a faint ridge-like in case of phalate. The line in both the family are faint. The radial and coronoid fossae, if we talk about, in case of canid, the coronoid fossa communicate with the olecranon fossa to make supratrochlear foramen, whereas the radial fossa is shallow. In case of phalate, both the fossae they are separated by a ridge, and the ratio of this coronoid and radial fossa is very specific for the species identification. Then the presence of the supratrochlear foramen in canids, that is present, in phalate that is absent. The supracondylar foramen, if we talk about, that is present in the phthalates, not in canids, and supracondylar crest less developed or faint in both the family. Here the ratio of the coronoid fossa and radial fossa, in case of phthalates, if we talk about, that is 2:1 in the tiger, 1:1 in the leopard as well as in wildcat, whereas it is 3:2 in lion. And this parameter, as the coronoid and the radial fossa are becoming of equal size, it will tell about the ability of the animal to climb a tree. That is a biomechanical adaptation. Then if we talk about other family, Herpestidae, Ursidae and Mustelidae, the twisting of the shaft in humerus, it is like in Herpestid it is straight. In Ursid also no twisting is there. Whereas in Mustelid the curving of the shaft happens. Head and tubercle, if we talk about in mongoose family, they are large and higher than the head. In Ursid the greater trochanter, they are using actually word trochanter in this one, that is small, but their position inferior to the humeral head. Whereas in Mustelid the greater tubercle is small with elevation over the humeral head. The deltoid tuberosity is well developed in case of the Ursidae, whereas it is moderately sized in case of Mustelids and indistinct in case of Herpestid. The tricipital line, which gives insertion for the triceps muscle, that is crest-like in mongoose family, prominent and curved in the bear family, and faint in badger family. The radial and coronoid fossae, they are blunt and short in case of Herpestids. Sorry, I think some mistake is there in this one. Okay. Then supratrochlear foramen, if we talk about in Herpestids, it is present. In Ursid, it is present because this feature they are sharing with the Canidae. But in Mustelids, it is absent. Whereas the supracondylar foramen, that is present in Herpestid and it is present in the Herpestid. Okay, whereas it is absent in other species. So here the important point is that the Herpestid, the mongoose family, that is having supratrochlear foramen as well as supracondylar foramen. The supracondylar crest, if we talk about, in Mustelids, that is well developed and it is wing-like. It is wing-like in case of Mustelids. Here you can see, this is the supracondylar crest. This is the supratrochlear foramen. Here it is the supracondylar foramen. If we talk about the specific difference within the family, then in tiger and leopard, the comparative charts, what I have made. Okay. Important point is that lateral tuberosity of the tiger that runs towards lateral side, whereas it is straight in case of leopard. Then the coronoid fossa and radial fossa, the ratio of these fossae in case of tiger it is 2:1, whereas it is in leopard it is 1:1. Okay. Then next bone is the radius and ulna. Here the radius is again a long bone which is having the head, the shaft and the distal extremity which is having a prominent styloid process of the radius. Okay, first of all, in carnivores, radius and ulna, they are individually present. They are articulating only at the extremities, and in between them complete one narrow interosseous space is always present. Apart from that, here the important feature in case of the radius of the carnivores is the bicipital tuberosity that gives insertion for the biceps brachii muscle. The level of development of bicipital tuberosity is variable among different species of the carnivores. Distal extremity, the proximal extremity is in the form of the articular fovea, and the distal extremity is having a prominent styloid process of the radius as well as ulna. The proximal extremity of the ulna is having the olecranon process which narrows down or which faces ventrally to make enconeus. Then in the shaft where it articulates with the radius, there the prominent coronoid process is also present which articulates or which lodges in the coronoid fossa during extreme flexion of the hip.
Hello?
Excuse me, anything you want to ask?
किस पे कौन सा सेकंड? हाँ.
Okay, so in
अच्छा
ulna,
वो अलग जगह होगा वो वहाँ पे. ठीक है. ठीक है ओके
I think some disturbance is there.
प्रैक्टिकल क्लासेस से 5 बच्चे बचे हैं तो हम लोग पढ़ लेते हैं जाके।
हैं
सर प्रैक्टिकल में से 5 बच्चे बचे हैं
हाँ
बाकी कोई है तो हम लोग
Some disturbances is there. Okay, my slides are visible.
Yes,
Am
yes,
I
it is
audible or not?
visible. Yes,
Okay.
audible. You can continue.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So here you can see the proximal extremity of the ulna, which is in the form of the olecranon process, the axis, the coronoid process. These are very important structure. Even the continuity of the enconeus to this trochlear notch and the coronoid process is very important feature for identification of the species. Okay, then what points we should remember when we are dealing with the forensic cases of the radius and ulna? The twisting of the shaft, head, whether the margins are prominent or not, the degree of development in bicipital tuberosity, the posterior surfaces where any specific marking are there or not, the development or the morphology of the styloid process of the radius. Then in case of ulna, we have to check for the olecranon process, any tuberosity, tubercles are present or not. Then the enconeus, what is the morphology of the enconeus, then the supratrochlear groove, and the styloid process of the ulna. And here important point we have to remember that the radial and coronoid process both are present in case of radius. Okay, and coronoid process of ulna continues with the coronoid process of the radius. Then here the differential tables I have prepared for this different family. If you see the shaft of the radius in case of canid, that is straight, whereas it is having a slight curve in case of phallates. The head or the articular phobia, that is having distinctive head and neck in both the family. The bicipital tuberosity is less developed in case of canids than the phallates, in which that it is well marked. However, from the domestic to the wild dog, if you go, bicipital tuberosity is developing towards the wild animals. The most developed bicipital tuberosity in the canids is present in the wild dog, what we call dole. Whereas in case of phallates, in all species, the bicipital tuberosity is well marked. However, the shape of this bicipital tuberosity, from the lenticular shape to the rectangular or the quadrangular or the bean shaped, that differs between the species. The styloid process is having a wider angle in case of the phallates. If we talk about the features of ulna, the olecranon process, that is bilobed to flat in case of canids, whereas in case of phallates it is square shaped. In some of the phallates that is present bilobed, that is having bilobed appearance, especially in the African lion. If we talk about the coronoid process, that forms a distinctive point with the radial notch in case of canids, whereas in case of phallates the coronoid process is triangular. The trochlear notch, that is semicircle with the minimal lipping appearance in case of canids, whereas it is semicircle with the moderate amount of lipping. Lipping means the prominence of the trochlear notch margins that is present in case of phallates. Styloid process of ulna is prominent, pointed in canids as well as phallates. Then if we talk about harpestrid, ursidae and mustelidae, the shaft is having slight twist in case of ursid, whereas the short distally flared shaft is present in the mustelids. The articular fovea is having well developed raised borders in case of bear family, whereas it is wide in case of mustelids. Bicipital tuberosity, that is indistinct in all three. Styloid process of bear is having superior angle, that is approximately 45 degree, whereas in mustelid a triangular, but it is less developed. In case of ulna, the harpestidae is having blunt and short ulna, okay, whereas in mustelids it is thick and curved. The olecranon process of ursidae is bilobal appearance, whereas it is short and bulbous with a square in outline in case of mustelid. coronoid process is pointed, whereas it is faint. Sorry, it is wrong point only. Okay, trochlear notch, that is twisted to the side in case of Ursidae, whereas crescent in shape in the mustelid. Styloid process we talk about in Ursidae, it is thick and rounded, whereas it is pointed in both the species. Here in these photographs, you can see the shaft of the domestic dog, fox. This is mustelid. You can see here curvature is there. Okay, and distillate is getting widened. Okay, if you see about here the styloid process of the radius, it is more prominent in case of badgers. Okay, it is prominent in the cat also, but if you see here, it is pointed where it is having a curved pointed structure. This roundness is the feature of the Felidae. In Canidae, they are not prominent as in other species. Then if you see the oligrenon of the ulna, this curvature, it differentiates between the dog and the fox. Okay, it is more horizontally arranged in case of the badgers as well as in case of cat, but here the lipping of the trochlear notch is important, and the badger is having stout ulna. Comparatively, if you compare in all these species, it is having thicker ulna in case of the badger or mustelids. Then if you see about the specific feature within the family between tiger and leopard, in the posterior surface of the radius, the faint oblique lines are present in the tiger, okay, which were absent in case of leopard. In case of ulna, the coronoid process is not notched in case of tiger, where the notching is present in case of leopard. The next bone is ossa coxarum or os coxae, or generally pelvis bone we talk about. Here important feature is that carnivore os coxae is composed of 4 basic components. Like normally we talk about 3 bones are fused and together they are forming the pelvic bone, but in case of carnivores, total 4 bones are involved: ilium, ischium, pubis, and os acetabuli. Acetabular bone. If you see this diagram, here you can see this is the acetabular bone, 4th bone, which is forming the deeper part of the acetabulum or the acetabular fossa. This is the crest of the ilium, acetabulum, obturator foramen. These are important features what we should note when we are dealing with the forensic anatomy of carnivore bones. Then here the different features is there, like ilium shape, border angles, ischium shape, border angles. The same thing in the pubis, border angles. Other structures we have to note down. Then important point for identification, we see the crest of the ilium, that is round in case of dog, semilunar in case of foxes and cats, and elongated oval in case of mustelids. The acetabulum, if we talk about the supraacetabular tubercle, that is very large in case of canids and that is small in case of felids and mustelids. Then next bone is femur, which is long bone. It is having head, the trochanterus, then the shaft, then distal extremity in the form of the trochlea and the condyle. Okay, and in carnivores especially, they are having the sesamoids which are present on the posterior aspect of the femur in distal extremity, that is the fibulae we call. But depending on the species, number of fibulae, whether both fibulae are present or not, that is variable among the species. But if we are having the specimen of the femur, we should note down the points about the head of the femur, especially the fovea capitis femori, the trochanterus, that number, shape, size and level, the intertrochanteric ridge, the trochlea, their size as well as the level of ridges, condyles with the width and level of that, intercondylar fossa and their relation with other structures, the supracondylar fossa, whether it is present or absent. If it is present, then what is the depth, and the supracondylar ridge or the crest. These are the features what we should note down when we are dealing with the specimen of the femur. If we talk about the comparative aspect, the head and the trochanter, the greater trochanter They are almost equal in height in case of the canids, whereas the head is undersized. They are smaller in morphology we see in the phalids. The trochanters, if we talk about the dotted trochanter, that is moderately large and rounded structure, whereas in case of phalid that is small. The greater trochanter is small structure. The intertrochanteric ridge is curved in case of the canids, whereas in phalids that is angular. The distal extremity is longer in case of canids, whereas it takes the wide trapezoidal shape in case of phalids. Intercondylar fossa, that is present between the medial and the lateral condyle, that is triangular in case of the dog. Okay, and it is very small in dog and true foxes, whereas it is prominent in wolves, in red fox and coyote. In case of phalids, this intercondylar fossa, it is triangular, large in case of tiger, quadrangular in case of cats. Okay, supratrochlear fossa, that is small elongated in case of fox, but absent in others. That is present in case of canids only. Above the trochlea of the femur, the supratrochlear fossa is present. Then, in case of herpestid, the head is small, ursid that is well developed and rounded, whereas in mustelids, it is mushroom appearance. It is having a mushroom appearance with well distinct or distinct neck. The trochanters, that is greater trochanter, is small in case of mongoose family as well as in Ursidae, but the position, if we talk about, that is inferior to the neck of the femoral head, whereas in mustelid that is small, but it is parallel with the femoral head. Intertrochanteric ridge in herpestid, it is less prominent. In mustelid, it is angular. The distal extremity, that is having equal trochlear ridges in herpestid and ursids, whereas in mustelid it is wide trapezoid with the condyles angled inwards. Intercondylar fossa, quadrangular in herpestid, triangular in case of mustelids. And supratrochlear fossa, that is long triangular fossa present in the mustelid just above the trochlea of the femur. Okay, this is supratrochlear fossa. Then, if we talk about the species difference within the family, the trochanteric ridge is terminating into the tubercle in case of tiger, where it is continuous up to the trochanter minor in case of the leopard. The lower caudal margin of the head of the femur, that is smooth in tiger and notched in case of leopard. Then next bone are like tibia and fibula. Okay, the tibia, both bones are the long bones. They are having proximal extremity, soft, and the distal extremity. And the distal extremity of the fibula is called the lateral malleolus. Okay, here the important features, what we have to note down: the median eminence, facet for fibula, whether it is present, absent, or what is the location, what is the shape and size, the tibial crest and its tuberosity, popliteal lines, their number and locations, articular grooves in the distal extremity. Then facet for the fibula or malleolus, if it is there. In case of fibula, the extremity and the shaft, along with the twisting of the shaft, we have to note. In tibia, if the proximal extremity is heart-shaped in outline in mustelids, whereas it is forming the 3 steps with the white popliteal notch in case of phalids. If you see here, this is typical heart-shaped in case of mustelid, whereas these 3 steps are in case of phalids. Then the extensor sulcus, that is deeper in case of fox and shallow in case of mustelids. The styloid process, that is rounded in Ursidae, distal and disseminal in isosceles right triangle in mustelids. In case of fibula, the extremity and shaft, they are triangular with the pointed medial malleolus in ursids. No true notch in phalids and D-shaped notch in case of mustelids. Okay, here important point about this is the in general we say like the femur is the longer bone, but in case of carnivores, if we talk about, the domestic cat is having longer femur than the tibia, whereas other counterpart of this family, the serval, lynx, cougar, lion, tiger, leopard, and cheetah, they are having longer tibia than the femur, whereas ocelot is having equal femur and tibia. Okay, here are the differential feature between the tiger and leopard. Within the same family, there are different species. Median condyle is convex in case of tiger, concave in case of the leopard, and the tubercle, which is anterior proximal to the lateral side of the distal extremity, that is present in case of tiger and absent in the leopard. Then coming to the axial skeleton, here important thing is about the different structure which are present. I think you all are aware of this type of the vertebrae: heterocellus, opisthocoelus, procellus, and acellus. Okay, the heterocellus is present in the avians. The mammalian is having acellus type of. The reptiles are having procellus, whereas the amphibians are having pro as well as opisthocoelus. Okay, in general, structure of the vertebrae is having the body, the ring, and the processes, and these all structures, they are having their specific features among different species. Okay, this is the atlas. Okay, I think all are aware of that. This is the axis. This is the thoracic vertebra. Okay, which is having the costal facet as well as the demi facets. Okay, this is the typical lumbar vertebra of the carnivores. Okay, here important points, if you see the atlas in case of foxes, that is having sharp alar notch with the defined tubercles, and the phallates are having symmetrical wings. Phallates are having symmetrical wings. In case of axis, if we talk about, the spinous process is longer posteriorly than anteriorly if we see the Mustelis axis. In case of lion, the thoracic two vertebra is having the longest spine, and the costal facets are present only on the transverse process. The demi facets are not that much prominent in case of lion. And the lumbar 7 vertebra, the transverse process is having typical 90-degree angle. That is the specific feature of the lumbar vertebrae of lion. This feature will not be there in other species. All are like inclination. Then the feature of the bone, if we talk about, the number of sacral segments, generally there are 3 in number in all the carnivores. Then whether these spines are having what degree of the fusion, the lateral processes, the transverse process, whether they are completely fused or not fused, like that we can use these all features for the identification. Here the transverse processes in case of lion, they are semi-fused, whereas the dorsal spines are unfused in case of lion. Then in the ribs we can check the convexity, the flatness, the width, then head and tubercle size as well as the distance between them, the angle of the twisting, and the sulcus costae. These are the important features what we should note when we are observing any specimen related to the ribs. In case of sternum, the overall shape, generally it is cylindrical in case of the carnivores. The number of sternibrae, in general we say like 8 sternibrae are there in the carnivores, but in case of loin, the Gonzalez reported that only 6 sternibrae are present. Then the morphology of the sternibrae, like their flatness, especially the dorsoventral aspect, that we have to check. It varies among the species. Then if we are having a specimen of the skull, then overall we should check the shape of the cranium, the rostrum, the orbits, their location, whether they are complete, incomplete. If they are incomplete, then what is the degree of incompleteness, the temporal bone variations, the zygomatic bone variations, and the occipital bone. In case of mandible, we have to check the shape of the mandible, the coronoid process, the condyle, the angular process, and other morphological features. Okay. In general, if you see that skull is composed of 28 or 29 bones, which can be divided into the neurocranium and splanchocranium. Some of them are paired, some of them are unpaired. Then the dentition is very important in case of the carnivores, and overall the mammalia are divided into 3 categories on the basis of the dentition. The mammals without incisors, means the incisors are absent, that is the ruminants. Instead of that, they are having the dental pad. The mammals without canines, means other tooth are absent, but the canines are absent. Other tooths are present, whereas the canines are absent, that is the rodents. And the mammals which have both incisors as well as canines, the carnivores as well as non-ruminants, come in this category. If we talk about the number of tooth present in the cat, they are 30. In most of the cats, they are 30. But in lynx, that is 28. Okay, the premolar is missing in case of lynx. Then fox, bear, wolf, or dog, they all are having 42 tooth. Then if you talk about the description or the comparison on these bases among the species, here you can see the dorsal aspect of the skull, ventral aspect of the skull. Here the prominent feature is the developed tympanic bulla, okay, because they are having more hearing sensation. Okay, this is the lateral aspect. Here you can see the orbit is incomplete. The position of orbit is also very specific for different species. Okay, here you can see the skull of the leopard, lion, lynx, ocelot, wolf, hyena, and meerkat. You can see the differences in overall morphology, their shape, size is depending on the age, but overall if you see that the shape is very much different among these species. Similarly, that here you can see the Wonsira, Indian wild dog or the dhole, jackal, fox, wolf, bulldog, chihuahua dog, and civet. You can observe here how much morphology of these animals. However, they are belonging to the dog family only. They all are canids, but how much shape of their skull is changed. Similar to that, it is wolverine, badger, otter, raccoon, coati, panda, bear, polar bear, and sloth bear. These animals belonging to the same family, mustelids, whereas these are ursids. You can check the shape of the skull in case of the bear, then the polar bear and the sloth bear. How much differences they are having, and these differences we have to note down for identification. These are the features we have to be careful about whenever we are dealing with the vetero-legal cases, especially related to the osteological specimen of the carnivores. Then if we talk about the difference among these 5 families, what we have discussed in other bones, the canids are having slender triangle appearance type of, whether the felids are having short, wide, and rounded, similar to the brachycephalic breeds of the dog. The rostrum is long and narrow in case of canids, where it is short and curved in case of felids. The nasal bone is small and triangular in case of felids. Orbits in both species, they are both the family, they are open, but in canids they are positioned forward with short triangular supraorbital process, whereas in case of felids the orbits are forwardly facing with large triangular supraorbital process. The supraorbital process is larger in case of felids. The temporal ridges, they are converging into the sagittal crest in case of canids, whereas in case of felids they are converging to form a triangular pattern before rising to become a sagittal crest. The zygomatic bone is wide in case of canids, whereas the zygomatic arches are heavy and wide with thin margins in case of felids. The occipital bone in case of canids, that is having a prominence of the arc of the occipital crest and the supraoccipital shield, whereas in case of felids the prominent wedge-shaped occipital crest is present. Then in case of herpestid, if you see the wedge-shaped to long and slender shape of the cranium, depending on the which species we are dealing with. In case of ursid, that is large and elongated. In case of mustelid, the wedge-shaped to long and slender cranium is present. The rostrum is moderately sized in ursid, whereas it is short and wide in case of mustelids. The orbits in case of herpestid, they are having equal supra and infra orbital processes. Both processes are equal in size. In ursids, they are forwardly facing, and here small orbits with the blunt round edges. In mustelids, the orbits are the medium, anteriorly positioned with the triangular supraorbital processes. Then the temporal bone variation, if we talk about, the ursids are having the convergence with the U-shaped pattern, where that the mustelids are having convergence with the variable in location. The zygomatic bone arch, if we talk about, that is absent in harpestid and ursidae, whereas in mustelid that is wide and slender. Occipital bone, if we talk about in ursidae, that is forming a prominent arc around the large supra-occipital shield. The important points about the phalanx: the supraorbital foramen is absent in case of lion, as well as the prominent median crest is present in occipital of lion. Here you can see the sutures are also variable in the lion as well as in the tiger. Even the overall outline of the nasal opening, if you see, it is wide, or we can say roughly it is an apple-shaped structure in case of lion, whereas it is pear-shaped or typical the playing card heart-shaped structure in case of the tigers. Then the mandible. Here we are having the ramus, the body, the condyles and all. Okay, here we have to note down about the shape of the mandible, the coronoid process, the development or size of the condyles, and the angular process, whether it is developed or not. If it is developed, then whether it is pointed, whether it is blunt, whether it is rounded, those type of morphological features we have to note down. If we talk about the differences among the canids and phalids, the shape of the mandible is long and curved in case of canids, which narrowing anteriorly. In case of phalids, it projects horizontally with curving towards the anterior side. The coronoid process of mandible is large with a rounded as in case of canids, whereas in case of phalids, it is slender and rises at approximately at a 45-degree angle, that is called inclined. The condyles of the mandible, they are aligned with the tooth rows in both the family. The angular process, that is small and thick in case of the canids, and it is rounded. But in case of phalids, it is rounded with the variable size depending on the species. The special feature about the tooth which are present, this canine tooth of the phalids, if we talk about, in case of tiger, a longitudinal groove is present in most of the phalids, but it is most prominent in the tiger. Like if you know about the hyena, they are having very strong jaw muscles to keep the food inside or to press whatever things are coming in between. Here the tigers, their canines are fitting with each other with the help of this groove, so that they can maintain the equal pressure till the animal is died, till the prey is died. They can hold for the longer time. The mental foramen of mandible, they are circular in case of dog, oval in case of fowl, and in phalids they are 2 in number. In case of harpestids, if we talk about, the shape of mandible is wedge-shaped. In ursid, it is thick, which is projecting horizontally. In mustelids, it is having curvature slightly with the elevation of the shaft, and the canines are slender. The coronoid process is large and round, and it slopes towards the posterior surface in case of ursids. Mustelids are having sharp vertical elevation. The condyles are sloping posteriorly in ursid and mustelids. Angular process is prominent in case of harpestid, slender, pointed, and curving medially in case of ursids, and blunt and square to slightly longer and more rounded in case of mustelids. Here, additional point in mustelids, the carnassial tooth is having many peaks in case of badgers, so that whatever is available, they can eat with the help of these developed carnassial teeth. This is what I was talking about, the longitudinal groove present in the canine of the phalids. Okay, this tooth is belonging to the tiger, which came for identification. Okay, and I'm getting samples or these type of things regularly for identification and all. So just some photographs I have collected from that only. Okay, here you can see the mongoose, how that skull of the mongoose is there. Okay, now in general, if you see the family Canidae, which are having many type of the animals, overall shape of the cranium among various members of family Canidae, how it is variable. Same observation you can note down for the members of the family Felidae, whether it is puma, whether it is domestic cat, whether it is lynx, or mustelids, whether it is lutra or the mongoose. Okay, you can check the Ursidae, whether it is American bear or the Indian bear. Okay, then some specific features which are specific for the particular species. For example, the radial sesamoid, the additional sesamoid bone present at the radiocarpal junction in case of bear. The rectangular scapula, exactly rectangular scapula with the prominent angles, that is a feature of the herpestid. The angle, cranioventral angle, is not prominent in case of the mustelids. The infraspinous fossa is having undulating morphology in case of lion, not in other species, whereas in other felids only the supraspinous fossa is undulating. The supratrochlear foramen is present in the canids. Supracondylar foramen is present in the felids. Both the foramen are present in the herpestid. The fibulae, which are the sesamoid, present at the posterior aspect of the femur. Here the bobcat, leopard, jaguar, tiger, they are, as well as the lion, they are having only lateral fibula. The medial one is absent. Then the radius, which is longer than the humerus in case of serval, ocelot, leopard, and the cheetah. And the transverse process of the lumbar 7 vertebra in case of lion is having 90-degree angle. Then I would like to conclude that whenever we are having any case with the vetero-legal implications, we always should collect good evidences. And for that, even after 10-15 years later the incidence, the bones can be used as the good evidences. Even during my work, when I did my research on the tiger osteology, some of the bones I have collected, the animal was died almost 15 years back and they were burying under the ground. Now, few years back, they have changed the rule. Now they're not burying them. Now they're burning directly. Okay. So these specimen, the bones can be found for years together. Like I have collected the bones from the animal which was died 15 years back. The bones were intact, only the extremity was removed because of the cartilaginous digestion. But with the bone fix or something, you can fix it so that you can get all the entire morphology of the bone. These evidences can help in the identification of the species. Even you can observe the sexual dimorphism as well as the age of the individual. Then before giving your report, you should have thorough knowledge of the comparative osteology. Before doing the vetero-legal cases studies, you just read the literature so that you will have adequate idea, enough knowledge about the specific features for the particular species. We should be aware about the legal procedures, because our report can make an innocent guilty, or our wrong report may be responsible for the release of the culprit who committed crime. So we should be more aware about the legal procedures. Our report is very important in these type of cases, and even if we are found wrong, the legal actions can be taken against us. So we have to be very careful about that. We should have the knowledge about the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, as well as in many other cases, many other vetero-legal cases, we should have the legal procedure, whatever the things are there, what type of incidents, because our report are based on the evidence which should not be challenged by anyone else. That much authentic report we have to provide in all type of vetero-legal cases. So here I end my talk of the day. I think I took 10 minutes extra for that. Sorry for that. And if you are having any question, you can ask me, or even you can contact to my email ID, my phone number, whenever you need to get information about these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tomar. It was really a wonderful talk, and 5 different families you have compared in a very nice manner. It was really what can I say, lot of information packed PPT. So we thoroughly, I think all might have thoroughly enjoyed it. Now the topic is open for discussion. So if anybody is having any queries, please you can either write in chat box or you can directly speak.
Even one thing I would like to add in this, like some of the things I have not included in presentation because still that work is going on. Recently, we have observed some specimen of the skull of jaguar, African lion, then the leopard cat, the fish-eating cat. So those studies are undergoing. In coming future, I would like to present those also in front of the people. So if anybody is having any question, you can ask, or if you want to contact personally at the later time, you can contact. If you want, you can note down my phone number. It is 8360-441214. I will share into the chat box also. So the same number I am using for WhatsApp. So you can contact with that one. I know typical anatomy is little bit boring for the audience. So
it is a very detailed presentation, Dr. Tomar. Bone by bone, you have given the differences for all these species. So it can be, this is like a dictionary for comparing the anatomy of carnivores. Very nice presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for appreciation, ma'am. I have shared my phone number in the chat box. If somebody wants to contact in the future also, they can contact.
I had one question actually when I was watching radial fossa and coronoid fossa. Many times
Yes.
their boundaries will be vague. So then how we can like decide the proportion of these two fossae? Means how to measure it then in such case?
Actually, in old specimen, especially this type of problem comes. But like how I was doing this work, I was using the magnifying lens, so that a single detail, it is not like very prominent ridge-like demarcation is there, like what we are observing in the wild cat. Especially in the lion, that boundaries are not that much clear. But if you are using magnifying lens, you can find a thin line type of appearance, and immediately with the same magnifying lens, you have to make that margin prominent with the help of the pencil. Even in this slide where I have shown those two structures, because generally in normal anatomy when we are reading, the most of the literature is having description based on the equine. So for them, most of them, they are saying that coronoid fossa and radial fossa are the same structures.
Same only.
So, so first of all, we have to believe, not about believe only, but even not only in the carnivores. I have observed in the buffalo, I have observed in the bison specimen, as well as some reports are there in the methone also. The except equines, coronoid and radial fossa are individual, they are separate structures in all the animals. Okay. So for identification or demarking them, we can go for the magnifying instruments. Sometimes we are observing under the stereozoom microscope.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other question?
I cannot see any questions in the chat box actually.
Maybe the audience got slept.
Audience, if any questions are there, means please ask.
Even that
I
the
think,
first photograph I have shown. Yes. Any question is there? You can ask, please.
I think there are no more questions actually. So once again, thank you for what I can say, accepting our invite and delivering a very nice lecture. So
Actually, I should thank you, the organizing
like it.
committee, to give me opportunity to discuss my findings as well as other people's findings. Actually, I would like to add one thing, like in whatever I have presented today, almost 60% work was done by me or my colleagues. So these all are our findings only. We have observed them together to find their characteristic differences. Because generally we are doing, we are studying the things, and we are with the available literature we are doing. Recently, I have observed one article. The person has done very good work, but the person could not come out from the shadow of the old literature. Like they have described coronoid fossa, but they have not told about radial fossa separately because they were not having literature which is reporting this thing.
Yeah.
So sometimes it happens. So I
Have
would
you
like
worked on ruminants also?
Ma'am.
Have you worked on ruminants also? Comparative
Yes.
anatomy of ruminants, wild
Yes, ma'am.
ruminants.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, if you have seen, my PPT was having almost 193 slides. I have presented only 80. So those are belonging to the ruminants, ma'am.
Okay.
Except elephant, I have done on the barking deer, cheetal, sambar, the blue bull, then that barasingha or spotted deer, what we call, ma'am. Other species also, because I was working with the Center for Wildlife Forensic and Health in Jabalpur. So for them, even we can differentiate on the basis of the hoof itself, ma'am. So I have done on those aspects also, but since the topic was related to carnivores, I tried to focus on that only.
And internal organs also, have you worked on the internal organs?
Not
or mainly
that much.
osteology?
No, ma'am. We tried actually, but the thing was, whenever we were conducting post-mortem or something, most of the time that specimen what we were getting, they were like spoiled or putrefied. So few things like trichological work I have done in the common herbivores, ma'am, and other than that, few organs only we have studied. But blood smears and all we have done, ma'am. Enough work in that, ma'am.
Okay, Dr. Tomar, it was wonderful to have you here.
Okay, thank you, same here.
Okay, on behalf of the organizing committee and on my personal behalf, I once again thank you to accept our invite and come here to deliver such a talk. I think now it is time for us to wind up. So tomorrow we'll again meet with some other topic. Thank you all.
Thank you.